Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet. नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भगवतः सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी. Hare Krishna to all of you. Thank you so much for joining. We continue Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1 Creation, chapter number 11, Lord Krishna's entrance into Dwarka, text number 1. Suta uvacha anartan sa upavrajya swarthan janapadan swakan dadmaodaravaram tesham vishadam shamayan iva. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Suta Goswami said, upon reaching the border of his most prosperous metropolis, known as the country of the Anarthas or Dwarka, the Lord sounded his auspicious conch shell, heralding his arrival and apparently pacifying the dejection of the inhabitants. Om Agyanatimarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. First of all the mothers present on Zoom and Facebook, a very happy Mother's Day. It's not just, doesn't become happy just like that. There's a great responsibility for all the mothers to not only provide materially to their children, but also spiritually. So it's very, very high responsibility. Unfortunately, most parents, they think that just giving material education, a place to stay, clothes to wear, food to eat, the job is done. No. According to Srimad Bhagavatam, it's a very huge responsibility to be a parent, especially a mother, because she's the first teacher of the child. So it behooves all the mothers to give spiritual knowledge to their children. So I hope you all have a beautiful day, all the mothers. So today's chapter is Lord Krishna's entrance into Dwarka. Last Sunday we heard how Krishna left Hastinapur for Dwarka. So from this chapter we will understand that everybody, of course, is so joyful to see Krishna, to see him return back to Dwarka. And just their divine presence, the divine presence of Krishna, for the residents, it brought fulfillment and joy to them. They were so very happy. So here this first verse indicates that as soon as Krishna reached Dwarka, he blew his conch shell, his transcendental conch shell, which is actually called Panchajanya. It is white in color, and it is explained in this chapter that even though the conch is white, but when it touched the lips, the red lips of Krishna, when he blew it, the conch became red. It reddened the conch, you see? And a very nice analogy is given that just like a white swan is playing in the stems of the red lotus flower. Now, how is that possible? That's because Krishna, we learned in Bhagavad Gita also, that he's present everywhere in every particle of all existence. And by the spiritual contact of the Supreme Lord, the conch became spiritually reddened. So why did he blow the conch? Is because he wanted to let the residents of Dwarka know that he has arrived, and also to kind of pacify them, because Krishna was away from Dwarka for such a long time. And because of his absence, the residents of Dwarka were very sad. They were depressed because of the separation from the Supreme Lord. And why does that happen? Because there is intense affection for Krishna. These are actually signs of spontaneous love for the Lord. You see, on a daily basis, I'm not sure if this applies to everybody, but most of us, we don't feel the separation from Krishna every day, right? We don't feel, just like when the child is away, the mother feels separation from the child. Of course, nowadays, with this fast life, the parents also get so busy with their own work, etc., that they don't have time to feel the separation from the child. But here, the residents, they had intense love for Krishna, and that's why they were feeling the separation. And as soon as they heard the conch shell, they became very alert. Why? Because they wanted to welcome and receive Krishna very properly. So they started running around, trying to arrange things, trying to make sure, that all arrangements, can be made to welcome him. See? And most of them started running towards Krishna himself. You see, this residents of Dwarka, Srila Prabhupada mentions that they are not ordinary persons. They are not like you and I. They are spiritual beings. They are liberated souls. They came down, they descended with Krishna to take part in his pastimes. So it is, we should not consider them to be just ordinary human beings. No. All of them were liberated and they were completely immersed in thinking about Krishna always. Not on Saturday morning at 8 o'clock, no, always. In the Bhagavad Gita, we learned, Man mana bhav mad bhakto matyaji mam namaskuru, that in the mind we should think about Krishna. That is perfection of devotion. When we think of him always, then we can understand we have reached perfection, you see. And how do we achieve that stage? Just by chanting attentively. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. This is how we can develop that attachment or love for Krishna. So here we see the anticipation of the residents of Dwarka, the citizens. You see, they have been eagerly waiting for Krishna's return to Dwarka because they deeply love him so much. Not that he is a king, Dwarkadish, no, but he is their friend, he is their protector, he is their guide, and just his divine presence is what they were missing, you see. So Krishna's absence from them felt very, very long and painful for them. Especially we see those who are, knowing, boy and a girl knowing each other, falling in love, excuse me, and then, getting married. So all that period, there is longing. And then even when they are little separated, they feel that separation and it becomes painful for them. Of course, after a few years of marriage, all that vanishes. But here we're talking about spiritual separation, you see. So here these citizens, when they heard that conch shell, they started running towards him and they brought a lot of presents for him. And it is mentioned that when they were giving those presents, it is compared to, showing a lamp to the sun. Sun is so bright, right? So very bright. What is a lamp in front of the sun? Nothing. That the light of the lamp is so teeny weeny, it's you cannot compare. So the presents that they were offering to Supreme Lord were compared to a lamp showing to the sun. But still, Krishna was very happy because those presents were given with love. You see, everything belongs to Krishna. We heard this in the Bhagavad Gita so many times. He's the ultimate provider, he's a controller, he's a guide. Everything belongs to him. He's self-sufficient, he doesn't need anything. But yet, to show their love, They brought presents for him. This you can say is a sign of pure love and affection for the Lord. And so then there was a huge grand welcome for him. And when Krishna finally arrives, he sees that the city was beautifully decorated with flags and flowers and ornaments, and all the residents of Dwarka, they came to welcome him. There were conch shells blowing, drums playing, and brahmanas were chanting Vedic mantras. So that whole atmosphere was full of pure celebration and devotion. See, this is what this chapter is teaching us, how to welcome. What is the position of Krishna? How do the residents of Dwarka feel pain and separation from Krishna? You see, we've heard that Vasudev, who's Krishna's father, and Akrura, who's the commander-in-chief, you see, they also were present to welcome Krishna. Now, Akrura, who's like an uncle to Krishna, he attained the stage of perfection. He became successful in devotional service just by offering prayers to Krishna. There's mention that even Ugrasena came to welcome him. Ugrasena is the grandfather of Krishna. Lord Balram was the elder brother of Krishna. So everybody abandoned everything that they were doing and they all came to welcome Krishna. And everyone was extremely happy because Krishna was their life and soul. So it is mentioned, Srila Prabhupada says, that by seeing this love of the residents of Dwarka for Krishna, it shows that nothing could hamper their devotional service. Because Krishna was the focus, that was the main center of their lives. And their devotional service was uncheckable in all circumstances. It did not matter whether they were happy or sad or depressed, or it didn't matter what the situation was. They had unalloyed love for Krishna. And how did they achieve that? Of course, because they are liberated souls anyway, and they descended for Krishna. They came to the material world to help him in his pastimes, but just to show us from their example how we can also develop unalloyed love for Krishna. It is said in this chapter that even prostitutes, whom we call society girls, they also came to see Krishna. You see? We should not hate such society girls because they were devotees of the Supreme Lord. So it doesn't matter, even, of course, it is said that even today in great cities of India, there are some, society girls who are sincere devotees. I personally remember when I was visiting Mumbai one time in India, and I visited my sister's home over there in Malad, and she mentioned, she pointed out to an apartment, and she said, here there are two society girls, both the sisters, and they are very sincere devotees of Krishna. They go to the temple, they chant, they offer food to the Lord, they read Bhagavad Gita. You see? So here we see that the citizens of Dwarka, for them, Krishna was the ultimate, absolute ultimate. Their focus was only on Krishna. They did not think, oh, let me worship this one also, that one also, that. No, it was just Krishna, the supreme personality of Godhead. This is how we can achieve the highest perfection. You see? And these citizens, even though they were, liberated souls, still they were aspiring to achieve the highest benefit of life, you see? They said, they were addressing Krishna, saying, you are the Supreme Lord, you are our mother, you are our father, you are our guru. So please bless us with your mercy. And now we can look at your smiling face, smile. You see, after such a long time, they saw Krishna and they were appreciating. And they said, now we can look at your smiling face, which is full of affectionate glances. How can we exist without your presence? You see, when you go away, every moment is like millions of years. And our eyes, they are useless as if there is no sun. You see, our material senses, how do they work? When there is light, we can see either sunlight or the light bulbs or whatever, then we can see. But when there is no sun and there is no light, we cannot see. So our eyes are useless in the darkness, right? So here they are saying that when you are not there, our eyes are useless as if there is no sun. You see? See, these material senses, they are not absolute. We need light, we need sun to be able to see. You see? And still, we are very proud of our senses, right? We are proud of our education, our beauty, our opulences, our fame, whatever it may be, we become proud of that. You see? In the scriptures, it is mentioned that Krishna is like the light and Maya or illusion is like the darkness. That is the difference. So if we are on the side of Krishna, then there's light, which means there is knowledge. There is no ignorance. Darkness is equal to ignorance. See? So, but the pure devotee, he sees everything in true perspective because all the senses are engaged in Krishna's service. So when all these residents came to meet Krishna when he entered Dwarka, he heard all these prayers of these residents, and while hearing, he entered Dwarka. And Dwarka, of course, it is mentioned 5,000 years ago, it was filled with opulences. It was so beautiful. It cannot even imagine. It was like the spiritual world, not like, it is the spiritual world that had come down into this material planet. And Krishna, with a smile, he acknowledged all the greetings. And of course, Krishna's head was protected by a white umbrella because there was sun. And there were white feathered fans which were, were used to fan Krishna because probably it was hot. And showers of flowers were falling on him and on the road also. So then as he entered and he acknowledged the greetings, Krishna, he addressed each one in a different way. So that's called expression of devotion. You see, different groups, they glorify Krishna, and just like the elders, they offer blessings. Brahmanas were chanting hymns. Women were gazing at him with affection and admiration from the rooftops. But Krishna, he accepted the greetings and accordingly he reciprocated, like elders bowing down to him, equals just smiling and just greeting with an embrace. So this is called proper etiquette. So this chapter, it is emphasizing the devotion between the residents of Dwarka and Krishna, their love, showing that each person in Dwarka related to Krishna in their own loving way. And from this, we can understand that we can also have a loving relationship with Krishna in whichever way we want to. If we want to see him as our son or as our friend, you see. So there are different, what you call rasas. So we can, have a relationship with him. So here we see that Krishna, when he saw his parents, he saw Vasudev, Devaki, he saw elders, his relatives, you see. So the way he dealt with them shows how humble Krishna is. He showed us proper etiquette Even though he is the Supreme Lord, there's no need for him to do. But then he still did. Like I mentioned, he offered obeisances, bowed down to the elders, putting his head down. And those who were equal, he looked at them smilingly, he shook hands, he gazed at the ladies on the rooftop to acknowledge their greetings also. You see, now one may say, why were the ladies on the rooftop and the men down near Krishna? In Vedic times, men and women did not mix freely. That's respectability. And that was very perfectly observed in Dwarka 5,000 years ago. Now, of course, times have changed and men and women mix very freely. But now also you will see that in the temples, men stand on one side and women stand on the other side. They don't mix together, of course. If they don't know this proper etiquette, they may, but this is proper etiquette. You see, in verse number 26, there is a beautiful description of Krishna, what he looked like when he entered Dwarka. Of course, he looks like that always. So it says the Lord's chest is the abode of the goddess of fortune, which is Lakshmi Devi. His moon-like face is the drinking vessel for eyes, which hanker after all that is beautiful. His arms are the resting places for the administrative demigods, and his lotus feet are the refuge of pure devotees who never talk or sing of any subject except his lordship. So this shows that the devotees, they get great pleasure in glorifying Krishna, and they are satisfied with at the lotus feet of Krishna. There's no other ambition, there is no aspiration, nothing at all. You see? So this is how we can see the residents of Dwarka, they appreciated and they were so very happy. And then Krishna entered the house of his father. Excuse me, Father Vasudev. And he embraced his mothers who were present there. Now you may say, mothers? Yes, there was Devaki and there was Rohini. Excuse me. So he offered obeisances. He placed his head at the feet of his mothers, his real mother as well as his stepmother. So from this we can see how Krishna is showing us by his personal example how to treat a stepmother also. In the scriptures, especially Srila Prabhupada mentions there are 7 mothers. Since today is the Mother's Day, it so happens that we are talking about mothers in this chapter also. There are 7 mothers. One is the mother who gives us the birth, right? Real mother. Then wife of the spiritual master, wife of a brahmana, wife of a king, a cow, a nurse, and Mother Earth. These are the 7 mothers whom we should always respect. Of course, we should respect everybody, but these are the 7 mothers we should show respect to. So here, after offering obeisances to his mothers, then he went to see his queens, right? We will learn more about his 16,108 queens that he had in Dwarka. So, and each queen had a palace of her own. It's not that all of them were living in one palace. No, each one had their own, and Krishna entered their palaces. He met his queens, and of course, these queens were longing for him for such a long time. And it is mentioned that he entered all 16,108 palaces at the same time, which means he expanded himself. It's not that he's, one day with one queen, another day another queen, then all of them would get a turn after 16,107 days, right? No. He was with each and every queen simultaneously. See, so when they saw their husband, their supreme Lord, their joy it was unmatchable. There's no way to describe how happy and joyful they were. And their joy reflects deep personal devotion and love for the Lord. And as soon as they saw him, they got up, they got up from where they were sitting, and it is said they were meditating. On what? On whom? On Krishna. Even though they are also like Rukmini is none other than Lakshmi Devi. They don't need to, but still to show us proper etiquette. So they got up from their meditation and went to welcome their husband. Prabhupada explains how Krishna expanded himself so he can be with each queen personally at the same time. This is a feature of Krishna's internal potency. He can expand in as many forms as he wants. For us, we can be in one place at one time, right? But for Krishna, he can be anywhere, everywhere at the same time. So it is mentioned that these queens, because they were feeling so shy, even though he was their husband, they were feeling so shy that they embraced him in their hearts. Not like, in the material world, as soon as, you see your loved one, you come running and you embrace, oh, I love you, honey, I love you, my sweetheart. No, they embraced him within their hearts. Then they embraced him visually. And they sent their sons to embrace Krishna. Prabhupada mentions, because the son is developed from the part of mother's body, so when the son embraces the father, it is as good as the wife embracing the husband. It's equal. So then these queens, they restrained their feelings, and they were shedding tears of love because they were seeing their husband after such a long time. Srila Prabhupada mentions that these wives of Krishna, they are all goddesses of fortune. That means Lakshmi Devi, the eternal consort of Lord Vishnu. You see? So, what woman can be detached from Krishna's lotus feet, having taken shelter of his lotus feet once? If one is surrendered, why would someone give that up and go back to the materialistic life? You see? Unfortunately, people, they want to enjoy money, right? They want money. That means they want Lakshmi Devi, but they don't want Krishna. They want Lakshmi without Krishna. How is that possible? Her nature is to move from one place to another. When there is Krishna, Lakshmi will already be there, you see. So we don't need to desperately try to get only Lakshmi. We cannot have Lakshmi without Krishna. That's not possible. And we learned this in the Bhagavad Gita also, right? So in this chapter, we can see the personal nature of Supreme Lord. Just his divine presence brings so much fulfillment and joy. How the residents of Dwarka were deeply in love with Krishna, and how the separation from Krishna intensified their devotion and love. We have seen even in this material world that when the child goes away, say the child has gone away for quite a long time, then the mother, she feels intense separation from the child, and just seeing the things of the child, like the clothes or the shoes or something, the mother starts feeling joy just by seeing those. So this is on the material platform. What about on the spiritual platform? The joy is millions of times more. In fact, the love intensifies in separation, because when the devotee is separated from the Lord, then the devotee is thinking about the Lord a lot more than when the Lord is present right in front. You see? So we see how separation intensifies their devotion and love. Even though Krishna is the Supreme Lord, but he behaves like a perfect human being. Why? Because he has descended in the human form. And he did everything that a human should do, honoring social customs, respecting others, reciprocating love, showing proper etiquette, everything. You see? So, Krishna, out of his causeless mercy, he came down on this earthly planet 5,000 years ago by his internal potency. He married and lived like a householder, like a grahastha. Now, one may say, oh, that is a materialistic activity. No. He wanted to show us how should one lead a married life, how one should develop love for the spouse. You see, his wives, as I mentioned, they were not ordinary women. So they were, of course, expansions of Lakshmi Devi. So even though they both are spiritual, transcendental, coming down from the spiritual world, still they were showing us the proper relationship one should have in Grahastha life, which means married life. See? When Krishna descends, he comes with his devotees. He brings everybody from the, not everybody, he brings his devotees from the spiritual world. You see, all this is very difficult for us to understand, Krishna's activities and how he descends and all, because we have very tiny brains, you see. But if we have the mercy of the Lord, then we can understand Srimad Bhagavatam. And how will we receive that mercy? When we sincerely and attentively hear Srimad Bhagavatam. You see, as we mentioned, these wives were Lakshmi Devi who had come down. They could not agitate Krishna's senses because he's the master of the senses, Rishikesha. He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But in the material world, the central attraction is there between man and woman, right? And this leads to them coming together and having a family. But those who are on the spiritual path while being married, leading a spiritual life, leading their lives according to the instructions in Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, they are actually training themselves to become qualified to go back to the spiritual world. They take up the process of Bhakti Yoga and purify their existence. They purify their mind, their senses, their body, their consciousness, everything. How? Just by performance of Bhakti Yoga. And Bhakti Yoga starts with mantra meditation, chanting attentively. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. That is the purpose. You see, getting married is not the problem, but not living a spiritual life while being married is the problem. The husband and wife and children, they live together, but if they live by following Bhakti Yoga, living together in Krishna consciousness, that should be the goal of life. And then they will be able to break the cycle of birth and death. You see, the wives of Krishna, they were very satisfied because they sincerely had love and affection and they served Krishna sincerely. They had unalloyed devotion for the Supreme Lord, and that is the only thing that can satisfy Krishna. You see? Common people, if they don't have knowledge, they think, oh, Krishna is just like them. He's a human being. We are also human beings. We are same. This is due to ignorance. See, that is ignorance. See, Krishna, as we learned in Bhagavad Gita, Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo veti tattva tyaktva deham punarjanma neti mameti so Arjuna. That anyone, Krishna says, anyone who understands the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities, they are not common. They are transcendental. So what happens? Such a person will not come back into this material world after giving up this body. So this knowledge from Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam helps us to understand the transcendental nature of Krishna. You see? So understanding that Krishna's activities, they are full of bliss and knowledge. He's unaffected by this material nature. You see? So the devotees of the Lord, they take shelter of Krishna and then they don't get influenced by the material world. You see, in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 14, we learned modes of material nature. So, how we can transcend these modes of material nature and come to pure goodness. And again, it starts with mantra meditation. This chapter explains that Krishna's wives, they were very simple and delicate. They truly thought Krishna followed them and that they dominated him. They were unaware of the extent of Krishna's glories. Now one may say, hey, if they are expansions of Lakshmi Devi, how come they don't know? This is just to show us the relationship between husband and wife. Just like Arjuna being a pure devotee, why was he in ignorance? Why was he asking so many questions to Krishna? Why was he lamenting? That's because Krishna put him in that situation so that Bhagavad Gita could be spoken. So here, Krishna has put them in that situation to teach us how to lead a grahastha life. You see? And this was because of the influence of Krishna's internal potency. He was playing the part of a husband and they were playing a part of the wife, right? So here we can see also that this is how there is a relationship between Krishna and his devotees. You see? So when Prabhupada says that when Krishna descends with like it's like bringing his spiritual world down, it is to show us what does the spiritual world look like, to give us a complete picture. You see? It is, Prabhupada says that it is because Krishna, he wanted to make them forget his glory. See, if the wives knew this is God, then they would not relish that relationship between husband and wife. Just like when Krishna came 5,000 years ago, Mother Yashoda, he made her forget that this is Lord so that she could have that relationship of mother and son. So the same way Krishna made them to forget his glories. You see? So that there is an exchange of feelings between them. And here, the wives of Krishna, they thought that he's a henpecked husband. He's going behind them. They are dominating him. This is just to have that relationship, you see? Even the personal associates of Krishna, they do not know him. He can be known only by Krishna's own mercy, right? So here we see the residents of Dwarka, just the divine presence of Krishna brought so much fulfillment and joy and bliss and happiness. They were so much in love with Krishna. And the separation that they had, that intensified their devotion and love. So this is how this chapter ends. So I'm going to end now. If anyone has any questions or comments, you're welcome to ask.